Think about it. You ever been playing your favorite racing game and then you jump to your favorite open world game and it feels like you're driving at 10 miles an hour? Well, fun fact, you kind of are. Well, I've always found the answer pretty interesting, so I thought today we would talk about it while we play a bunch of racing and open world games to really compare and contrast. Now, one of the main reasons is actually pretty straightforward. I mean, this is GTA 5, and number one, it's, what, like, PS3 game? The games are essentially designed to be, well, completely different. GTA spends a lot of time realizing that you could be on foot or in car, whereas a racing game like Need for Speed can absolutely tell, based on them making the game, that you want to feel like you're going at 3 million miles an hour all the time. Oops. I mean, most of the developers thought that, and then they added the crash camera. You okay there, bro? And to be honest, that would be the end of it for most people. Most people were like, yep, that's why. It's because one is a racing game, one is an open world game. But if that were the case, why do you spend most of your time in GTA driving from A to B? Because that's kind of what you do in GTA. Hell, in some of the earlier GTA games, you did nothing but spend time in the car. So, it doesn't really line up as the only reason. It used to be back in the day that racing games, well, were kind of easy. A lot of them were closed track, meaning you could do these crazy, beautiful environments, and you wouldn't have the systems in place to pop in randomly generated traffic. Some racing games used to have, like, scripted traffic. Now in Need for Speed, we've got character models. Now, again, these are not as randomized, and they don't have as much detail and complexity as, say, the likes of GTA does. And that definitely is a contributing factor. Like, I remember when GTA 4 was coming to be, and they were like, oh yeah, we've now got over, like, 100 different types of pedestrian. It might have been more than that, but back in the day, that wasn't the case. There were like 20 different pedestrians, and they all had the same voice lines if they looked the same. But now it's completely like they randomized the shirts and things, so they're always completely different looking than they were previously. Okay, not always. You can still find the same pedestrians, but that's a hell of a lot of calculation going on. And the fact that they managed to do that stuff on like PS3 and 360 still blows my damn mind. But that's just talking about GTA. There are other games too. This is Mafia 3, and one of my favorite games I've been playing recently, and actually maybe one of the better handling models of an open world game. That was incredibly close. God damn it! Now, the excuse on this game is actually pretty perfect because I mentioned this already. The top speed of cars back in the day were clearly not that great. I mean, we should be probably going a little bit faster than the 120, 135 that this game lets us go, but it's actually pretty similar to GTA. GTA doesn't really go much quicker than this, but the cars are from like 2025. So what? What? Okay, but so far, these two games have been, well, a PS3 game, it's GTA, and a PS4 game, which is on pretty much the same speed hard drive technology. So what about a more modern game? Saints Row. Again, another game that everyone absolutely hates, but to be honest with you, one of my most enjoyed games of the recent years, recent generation, if you will. Saints Row. Every single version of this game, from the Saints Row 1, Saints Row 2, Saints Row 3, and all the stupid ones in between, the top speed in these cars is equivalent to genuine, like, these guys are doing normal driving. I'm speeding. I'm doing what, like 50 miles an hour? This is beyond ridiculous. Again, why the hell is that the case when you spend most of your time in these games driving anyway? But you can't have the excuse. Oh, but Theo, it's not a driving, it's not a racing game. No, that's not good enough of an answer. What is? Hardware, my friends. Not only the game creators' ideas, hardware, my friends. You've got many things that build these consoles, build these gaming platforms, build your PC, and I'm gonna simplify it in a very obvious way. You've got CPUs, GPUs, you've got RAM, and you've got a hard drive. When you're building a game, these are things you've got to think about all the time, and especially when you're thinking about, for example, running a game on multiple different hardware sets. Hell, think about PC being one of the most difficult platforms to run games on. Sometimes. Bro, what the hell? I didn't even get off the damn car. What are you doing, bro? Again, incredibly simple way of looking at it, but the amount of things being calculated at once, whether that's the physics of driving, the speed, the decision to load things in the distance as I'm driving, and the quicker I do it, being the more intense. Oh my god, what the faster I go, the more calculations need to be made. The more graphics horsepower I need, the more memory I need. And in my opinion, one of the biggest ones that is the least scalable compared to PS4 to PS5 or old PCs to new PCs, hard drives versus solid state drives. Just to throw some numbers out there, realistically, the PlayStation 3 generation at hard drive, you're looking at like, what? 80 megabytes a second transfer rates, and on SSD on the PlayStation, depending on the generation, you're looking at least 3 gigabytes a second, upwards to like 6 these days, and more as of recent. Again, the answer is kind of a combination of these things. So this is not the only reason, but a lot of these games we've been playing are taking so long these days that realistically any benefits of improved hardware are kind of being negated because they're taking so long, that they were built for previous generations and then lathered over to the current generation, and of course they just kind of work, and you just turn up the graphics a little bit. And then added the variety of hardware from the Xbox Series S to the Series X to the PS5 to the PS5 Pro. You're just making things so overcomplicated for consoles when inevitably it used to be so set. There's so many points to be had, but the ultimate explanation, in my opinion, with everything out of the way, ignoring all the other kind of angles. In a racing game, I can't just be driving down the street and decide, oh, by the way, I'm actually going to go inside this clothes store. All of a sudden, you've got to load all this interior. You've got to all of a sudden load in the ability and the systems in place for me to change my clothes quickly, very fast, very speedy. All the hardware's like, oh crap, he's doing that. Oh crap, he's doing that. Look, I said really simplified. I'm doing my best here. I want everyone to understand, you know? I might just decide to completely steal this person's car and they're going to have a different voice and different character, different outfit. Is the game going to realize that I want to do this? Yes, but in a racing game, I'm incredibly limited as to what I'm actually going to do. So, everything else gets the priority. Everything else. Because, well, it's not a racing game. From go, these games are built to know that I'm going to be flying at 300 miles an hour through the city streets. And one of the big points, and the most obvious one to me, hard drives at 80 megasecond across these massive open worlds with more and more detail being added, because essentially we can do so now. You remember at the beginning of the generation of the PS4 when Need for Speed Rivals came out and the game would just freeze because it couldn't stream the textures fast enough? You realize how that's not much a thing anymore? If it is, it's usually another component. So yes, it is just because racing games are built to be racing games, and open world games are built to be open world games and do many different things. But I thought it was pretty interesting to kind of dive in a little bit, so you know a little bit more. These games are built from the ground to essentially be ready for me to do what I'm doing. Whereas the driving in the other games is considered last minute. I think Cyberpunk driving sucks, by the way. But here's a spanner I want to throw into the works. GTA 6. That is definitely going to be a new gen game, and they knew they were probably going to miss the PS4 generations. That thing is probably never touched a hard drive other than, to locally store them. Yeah, so I'm incredibly curious. Are we actually going to break that 120, 160 or whatever it is these days? I kind of hope so, and I kind of think we could. Maybe not this one, maybe the next one.